So that's what I'm saying. The text is like an object. It's gonna change perspective based on where you're standing. I don't know.
Hello?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I missed you, baby sweet. It was a day.
It was a day.
Please tell me you're seeing this too.
From Seattle, we're Drinking the Movies. I'm Taylor Baker.
And I'm Michael Clausen. Cheers. Let's do it.
Oh, hey, Michael.
Oh, hey. How you doing today?
Great. We got the Oscars. You're gonna tune into them, or?
I think I will be watching them. What about you?
Probably not. Probably
gonna
not.
skip it?
Probably gonna maybe turn the tweet mute off for the Oscars just for today. Then turn it right back on after, and then I'll just get the Twitter feed update about who won and
in a fraction of the time.
Go like that. Yeah. Maybe if
go.
I know when the cinematography's on, I'll tune in just for that so that they can know that that's all I care about.
There you go. I like that strategy.
We got some first impressions today. We got Tilda Swinton's The Souvenir. We got Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone.
Great stuff. Where do we want to begin?
That's what I was about to ask you.
Oh, why? Thank you. Let's start with The Souvenir.
It's terribly complicated.
The fact that you're a thief, Anthony, you stole my stuff.
That's exactly how you make me feel. You're lost, and you'll always be lost.
You've changed quite a lot since you came. The most important thing about learning is that you grow.
Do you like her?
She looks sad.
I think she looks determined. And very much in love.
Well, Michael, that is the trailer for Souvenir. What do you think?
Well, I've heard really good things after it premiered at Sundance, I believe. It may have premiered elsewhere, but that's where I became familiar with it. I'm not going to lie. Had I not known that it had received really good reviews, I don't know that it would have been high on my radar from the trailer alone. Except that I think I trust Tilda Swinton to choose interesting projects.
Yes.
So
but
that is
there's
something.
A little bit of bias with her just trying to elevate a film that her daughter's in.
True. Yeah. Fair point. Yeah, I'm intrigued because of the critical praise. I am just interested to see, what is going to make it distinctive. It looks not terribly unexpected just from the look of it to me. But, yeah, there's clearly more going on given the love for it.
Yeah.
I'm really not that familiar with the plot. Had you read much about it in advance?
None.
None? Yeah. Going in blind, what do you think?
It's somewhere between Brooklyn and Carol. Brooklyn I like, Carol I don't. But, it's got a classy tone to it.
Very
Some
classy.
of the those canal shots, I was like, okay.
That looks nice.
That looks nice. I don't know Joanna Hogg off the top of my head, but her name is very familiar to me. So just that familiarity by name, even though I can't think of her projects, has me leaning towards, there's probably going to be some narrative conceits that are going to be strong, especially during the praise that it's getting.
Yeah.
But Richard Ayoade popping up as who appears to be a kind of homosexual, maybe buttressing character in this is delightful. He is one of my favorite character actors. He brings a certain levity and comedy to anything he touches, whether he's directing or whether he's acting in the IT crowd and stuff like that. So I am mildly hopeful, but I think I was expecting more.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Richard Ayoade?
Yeah.
Is that his name? You said he directed Submarine, and what was the other one you
Double
mentioned?
with Jesse Eisenberg and Neil Wasikowska.
Yes. I have not seen either of those. I've always been intrigued by The Double. He looked like an interesting character.
Yeah, delightful. His hair is kind of permed and afroed at the same time. I think that he had a white streak in his hair.
Yeah,
had
nice
a very
flare.
dainty affect. It was very pleasant.
Most definitely. Yeah, strong cast for sure. I'm eager to see what all the fuss is about.
Yeah. This is releasing in the spring, or?
I'm not sure, actually.
Yeah, they're probably going to keep seeing how the reviews go and then release it in November if they can.
Yeah, let that praise snowball.
Yeah. Well, let's get over to Jordan Peele's much-anticipated revival of the anthology series, The Twilight Zone.
Let's do it.
Life sometimes goes Like you don't expect it to.
What did you do to me?
Turn it off. This is real.
All right, we just watched the trailer for Jordan Peele's The Twilight Zone. A reboot? A revival? Something like that? One of those re-words?
A continuation of the anthology, perhaps? Hard to say. It said reimagining, is what it said.
Are you excited?
I'm eager, but I'm not overly anticipating it. There's a lot of people that I knew would want to be in this project that I saw in this project. Sometimes that's good. Like with the Quentin Tarantino project, that's never bad. Mm-hmm. With something like this, where I don't think Jordan's proven he can run a TV show as an executive producer that's a serious drama, as much as I love Key and Peele, and there's a proven track record there, he was performing as well. And I am slightly worried when I see this many different actors that would want to be attached to this, maybe doing what's called fan service. And maybe being a little bit greedy and just fulfilling their own dreams, like kids that always wanted to be in Star Wars, rather than having a whole vision of what something should be and really bringing something game-changing to the table, like I think the Twilight Zone or Hitchcock Presents originally did in their anthology format.
I expect it to maybe be like probably a little hit and miss for me, just depending on who's in and who is the creator behind each episode. I'm not really familiar with any of the directors per episode, and who all he's got on board. But from the little bit of the Twilight Zone and Alfred Hitchcock Presents that I have watched, that was just kind of my experience, is that the mileage just kind of varies based on each individual story. That's just kind of the nature of an anthology like this for me.
I think that at this point in time, right now, it's very hard to watch this trailer and not think about Black Mirror.
Yes, I would agree.
And it didn't give me the vibe that it's doing something original, fresh, authentic. It just kind of did feel like reimagining, like they were taking old stories and repurposing them. The one interesting, the one that actually like pulled me in was the Asian storyline, where he's wearing the top hat and you can't really tell if he's a spy or what's going on. Like that was filled with kind of a noirish intrigue just in the little bits we saw. Adam Scott, Kumail Nanjiani, Greg Kinnear, Abby, the gal from Fargo, I can't remember her name. She's been in a few Netflix projects. She's in the Christina Hendricks show as well right now. Good Girls. It just has me nervous, I guess. Like maybe we'll do a review of 1 or 2 episodes and see how it goes. But it's probably going to be like a solid 3, 2.5 with a heart, not like game changing beauty. What I think of when I think of the Twilight Zone, the original Twilight Zone, was just how each episode was kind of neatly summarized with some little kind of punchline. The one I always remember where the main character is masked the whole episode because she's supposedly horribly ugly and she's undergone some kind of surgery to be transformed, and when it finally comes off, she's beautiful, but everybody else looks like a pig all of a sudden, and that's what we see. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That's what we've learned. Right, and that's your favorite, and I can't even think of that episode. And my favorite is the one where all the mechanical things continuously come to life in the house. That's the thing about Twilight Zone. Like it's that where everyone has their own favorite, and it's always this. I would say that it's almost always one of the greatest short stories that's ever been visualized. And I didn't get the impression, and that might be because of the abbreviated trailer here, that these are great short stories that are being visualized.
I'll still check it out.
Fingers crossed. I'm just very skeptical.
Well, we shall see.
So we're gonna do a little bit of calling our shots here. Kind of a mini portion of the show that we've never done before, and it's gonna be a couple weeks after the Oscars, I guess, when this episode comes out. But we're just going to call our shots on who we think is going to win out of the current nominations.
That's right. We'll just kind of run through the categories. You want to start with the big ones and work down, or do you want to start with some of the small guys?
Yeah, let's start with the big ones. Costume, makeup, cinematography, basically anything that wasn't going to be televised.
I'm going to work from the bottom of the Wikipedia page for the 91st Academy Awards. And we'll work our way up.
Sounds great.
You want me to list these as we run through quickly? Just so people are aware of the nominations? Yeah. All right, starting with Best Visual Effects. The nominees are Avengers: Infinity War, Christopher Robin, First Man, Ready Player One, and Solo: A Star Wars Story. You will win, should win? What do you think?
I think Avengers: Infinity War IMAX 3D should win Best Visual Effects. Will win is... I'm gonna go with Avengers: Infinity War, even though First Man is very tempting to me. And always Spielberg is B for both.
Yeah, I think I would go with should win and will win Avengers: Infinity War.
And you don't even like that movie. Nor did you see it in IMAX 3D, so...
It's a technical feat. It is a spectacle, that's for sure.
Josh Brolin is a giant alien.
That he is. Very large. All right. How about Best Film Editing? We have Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favorite, Green Book, and Vice. Thoughts?
Huh? Why isn't First Man there?
Great question.
What's that movie that was better than all these movies? Oh yeah, If Beale Street Could Talk.
Yes.
Why isn't that here?
This
doesn't make any sense to me. If Best Film Editing means transitions, then I have to go with Bohemian Rhapsody because of just how solid the transitions that were CG transferences were. But I would, I think, probably lean toward The Favorite for editing just because it's a nearly perfect film.
Yeah, I think my guess as to what will win will be Bohemian Rhapsody. I think the narrative I've kind of heard there is that people think that the film was kind of rescued by the editing.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Like, my favorite transition all year is a transition in Bohemian Rhapsody where they're on the tour bus and they start from the back.
Oh, yeah, I remember talking about that.
They go to the front and they zoom out through the windshield.
Yeah, and with the director issues it had, I think people feel like it miraculously still was a movie through the editing. I'd probably go with Black Klansman, just some of the cross-cutting between, you know, that discussion between the civil rights leader. I'm forgetting that gentleman's name.
Kwame Ture?
I think he was the one who was presenting earlier in the film. There's the cross-cutting between, you know, the kind of small, more intimate conversation in the house and the KKK watching The Birth of a Nation.
Oh, gotcha. I thought you were talking about when they go to the black rally for Kwame Ture.
Right.
And I thought that Kwame Ture was the fella in the house who, like the actual Kwame Ture, I thought was the person lecturing in the house.
Oh, I think... Is that right? Yeah, I think it maybe is like the real Kwame Ture.
Yeah, that's...
Gotcha.
Yeah, I thought
That, not versus the actor
Not
playing
versus the actor playing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it. Just some cool cross-cutting
and especially
there.
the end there with the... when they're doing that levitation scene in the hallway against the burning cross.
Great stuff. All right. Best costume design. Would you like to read the nominees?
The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, Black Panther. The Favorite, Mary Poppins Returns, Mary Queen of Scots. What's your choice?
Well, I should caveat, I never saw Mary Poppins and I never saw Mary Queen of Scots. For me, it's Favorite. Easy choice.
Not so easy for me because I'm a little bit torn between The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Just how much I was always in that world is a curious thing. So I think that they definitely deserve a B number nomination. But yeah, Mary Queen of Scots is close to none It's the favorite.
Will win and should win?
The favorite should win. Will win.
Yep. I think Black Panther might steal it, but I'll still go with the favorite.
I agree. I wouldn't be surprised if they give Black Panther everything that they can on the stuff that people, quote unquote, don't care about. Just because that's the movie that's going to be seen by the most people.
Yeah.
So the next nomination is Best Makeup and Hairstyling. We have 3 nominations. Border, which neither of us have seen, Mary Queen of Scots, and Vice. You've only seen one of these titles. What do you think, Michael?
That's correct. Just from the look of Border and having not even seen it, it does look like some pretty impressive makeup.
I 100% agree.
I think that's possible. I'm a little worried that maybe not enough people have actually seen it. So I would guess that Vice will win for Christian Bale. What about you?
I think that Vice will win because of Christian Bale. Shouldn't win because Amy Adams wasn't nearly as convincing in her neck makeup for her aging and stuff. And I would prefer to see Border win. But Mary Queen of Scots had some really, really special makeup work on Margot Robbie, so I wouldn't be disappointed to see that either. Next.
Excellent. Best Cinematography. Cold War, The Favorite, Never Look Away, Roma, A Star is Born. Competitive category.
Very competitive. I only recognize 2 of the names myself, Matthew Libatique and Alfonso Cuarón. Do you know the other nominees there?
I am familiar with Caleb Deschanel. I know that's Zoe Deschanel's father.
Oh, right.
I think he did some new Hollywood films in the 70s, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head which ones he did.
I would imagine he also worked on the Twin Peaks when they would have met, right? Or maybe that's not when they would have met, but her mother was on Twin Peaks. That's why I'm...
Oh, who's the mother?
I don't know. I just know that Zoe Deschanel is the mother is in Twin Peaks.
Oh, got it.
It's a fun fact for those of us that grew up in Washington.
Quite a family. Boy, this is actually a tough pick for me of what I personally like the best. I think I would probably pick Cold War myself.
Very tempted by Cold War. I have to go with Roma. Just thinking about the intro and exit scenes and a director doing his own cinematography. I definitely want to support that, but it should be one of those 2. And I wouldn't be surprised if The Favorite got that and nothing else.
Yeah.
Next.
We have Best Production Design, Black Panther, The Favorite, First Man, Mary Poppins Returns, and Roma. Thoughts?
Well, I know a lot of details about the production design for Roma and for First Man, so I definitely lean favorably towards those 2. I know a little bit about The Favorite, not too much about Mary Poppins Returns or Black Panther, but I just want to not give Disney an award for production design because they don't try that hard. They don't deserve these nominations.
Yeah.
My experiences with Black Panther were not very good, though, visually. I never appreciated its visuals that much.
I personally would pick The Favorite, just the look of that thing as a 15th century painting just really struck me. Will win? Gosh, tough. I'm gonna say Black Panther though.
I'm going with First Man. I think that you're right with Black Panther, but First Man, I think about those bolts in that sound design. And it depends on if we say best production design, does that take into account the sound editing and the visual props and how much are we going to include there? I think that First Man really does deserve that.
Well,
but you're right. Black Panther will probably take it home.
In that case, moving into Best Sound Mixing, we have Black Panther, Bohemian Rhapsody, First Man, Roma, A Star is Born.
Tough. I want to go with Roma. And will win, I'm going to go with Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, I think we'll win Bohemian Rhapsody as well. I think the association a lot of people will just make is music, sound, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yep.
I think I personally would go with First Man myself. And Best Sound Editing, Black Panther, Bohemian Rhapsody, First Man, A Quiet Place, Roma.
Ooh, I like this. I'm going to say that who will win is Black Panther, and who I want to win is actually A Quiet Place.
Yeah. Cool to see that on there.
Yeah. It was like Hereditary. It was a unique viewing experience that was unparalleled all year.
Yeah.
Every person that reviewed it on Letterboxd always made a comment about how they didn't know when they were allowed to eat their popcorn.
Yes.
That's a special movie when you don't know when you're allowed to eat and you care.
That was, pretty uniform. Yeah, cool to see that on there. I think I would guess Bohemian Rhapsody again. I'd probably pick First Me and Myself again.
Really? Okay.
I think so.
All right, let me list these out this time, you jerk.
Take it away.
We got Best Original Song, All the Stars from Black Panther, I'll Fight from RBG, The Place Where Lost Things Go, Mary Poppins Returns, Shallow from A Star Is Born, When a Cowboy Trades His Spurs for Wings, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. What's your pick?
Shallow.
Yeah,
Will
Shallow's
win,
gonna win.
should win, Shallow. What do you think?
I think that Shallow will win and should win, but I would like to say that The Place Where Lost Things Go is by far the best song in Mary Poppins Returns, and it's good that they know that that's the best song, just as a group of people.
Yep.
I'm glad that they're that smart. And When a Cowboy Trades His Spurs for Wings absolutely deserves to be on this list. Very happy about that.
There you go.
Next, Best Original Score. We have Black Panther, Black Klansman, If Beale Street Could Talk, Isle of Dogs, Mary Poppins Returns. I don't have to ask you. Best Thing will win If Beale Street Could Talk. That's a fact, right?
Easiest pick.
Easiest pick.
No doubt.
Scroll up.
Moving on.
Best Animated Short Film. We have Animal Behavior, Bow, Late Afternoon, One Small Step, and Weekends. What's your pick?
I'm going to guess Bow will win, should win. No pick. Haven't seen too many of these. How
I've
about
seen
you?
all of these. My pick is Weekends. Deserves it. It's awesome. It's transformative. It's on Canopy. Everyone should watch it.
Boom.
Best Live Action Short Film. We have Detainment, Fauve, Marguerite, Mother, actually called Madre, and Skin. What's your pick?
Haven't seen any of them. I will guess Mother. Why not? What about you?
I do like me some Mother. Wrong version, though.
Madre.
I think Marguerite will win and should win. Mother is really, really tense, but if they're gonna go PC and be politically correct and stuff and focus on like racism and stuff, I wouldn't be surprised to see Skin win, even though it's a really disgusting portrayal of those issues.
Yeah. All right. Best documentary, short subject, Black Sheep, Endgame, Lifeboat, A Night at the Garden, period. End of sentence. Haven't seen any of them. I'll guess Lifeboat.
I haven't seen any of them either. I like the statement, A Night at the Garden, though, so I'm going to go with A Night at the Garden, because that just sounds like a nice night.
That sounds nice. Lovely. Best documentary, feature, Free Solo, Hale County, This Morning, This Evening, Minding the Gap, Of Fathers and Sons, RBG. What do you think?
Minding the Gap will win and should win, but the two other documentaries that deserve really big notice are the documentaries where people risk their friggin' lives. Mm-hmm. Free Solo, less so because he did that by choice. Of Fathers and Sons, more so because that was hard to watch. And he slowly handed that guy that sniper rifle. So I like him because he saved a guy's life.
Word. Good points. I would say Minding the Gap should win. I'm going to go with The Crowd Pleaser, RBG. I think she'll steal it away.
It is not a good documentary. Best Foreign Language Film. Capernaum, we're going to get to later. Cold War, Never Look Away, Roma, Shoplifters. What's your pick?
I think Roma will take this one.
I think you're wrong. I think it's actually going to be Burning, the title that deserves it and was not listed.
It hurts me to not see it there.
Because Roma, to me, is like an American title at this point. I agree Roma will win, should win. Love Cold War, though. It's really stupid that Burning is not in this list.
I agree.
Shoplifters is good, but it is not Burning. Burning is a work of art.
This film, Never Look Away. I mean, No comment, because I haven't seen it. I'm just fascinated. I don't know barely
how to
come
see
across
it.
my radar.
I love that last name, though. Von Donnersmarck.
Yeah.
So we have Best Animated Feature Film in The Incredibles 2, Isle of Dogs, Mirai, Ralph Breaks the Internet, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Will win, should win. What do you got?
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse will win. Personally, Isle of Dogs should win. I still very much like my Isle of Dogs.
Trash. I love Wes Anderson, but that is not a good movie. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse will win, should win. They built a brand new engine from the ground up and then made it open source and are sharing that engine with everyone. That is dope. Open API. Woo!
The tech is way up there for me. That story's just didn't do much. Best Adapted Screenplay: The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, Black Klansman, Can You Ever Forgive Me, If Beale Street Could Talk, A Star Is Born.
If Beale Street Could Talk, no questions asked.
Will win, should win?
Will win, should win.
Will win, I completely agree. Should win, I completely agree. Will win, I might go with Black Klansman here. I don't know. I think this is a tough category.
Can You Ever Forgive Me is a real tight screenplay, though. I did like it.
Yeah.
But if Beale Street Could Talk, no questions asked.
Great flick. Best Original Screenplay: The Favorite, First Reformed, Green Book, Roma, and Vice.
Oh, boy. This is tough for a number of reasons. But for best screenplay, I have to go with The Favorite.
I like it. Will win and should.
Should win. Will win. I'm going to go with Green Book.
Or
Vice. Yeah.
For me, should win First Reformed. Will win The Favorite.
I was close on First Reformed in that original screenplay, but when I think about that original screenplay, I don't know that the screenplay was as much at stake with what we get at the end as the editing and Paul Schrader as a director. Like, I feel like a lot of his choices with the narrative were made on the cutting room floor based on his own interviews and what he said he did to the film, because that really is a simplistic screenplay. And I think what it does is very much in the cinematic language that Paul's bringing, more than the written language of what he wrote down in the screenplay on the page. Yeah, if that makes sense. That's why I really was gravitated towards it, but I'd have to go to him for cinematography. Like, to me, his language is just more cinematic than written. Yeah,
fair enough.
Next category: Best Supporting Actress: Amy Adams, Marina de Tavira, Regina King, Emma Stone, Rachel Weisz, or the actual correct choice, Claire Foy.
Oh, just sneaking that in there. Nice. I am going to guess that Regina King will win. I think should win. I think I personally probably responded to Emma Stone most strongly myself. What about you?
Agreed. Emma Stone definitely is my preference for both. However, I could see Amy Adams winning the award because we're still really, really appreciating her work in Arrival.
Yeah. This could be, she's
a makeup
overdue.
Award? Yeah.
Oh yeah, that can happen.
There's been plenty of makeup awards in Oscar history. Best Supporting Actor, we have Mahershala Ali, Adam Driver, Sam Elliott, Richard E. Grant, and Sam Rockwell. Who you got?
Should win Sam Elliott. Myself will win Mahershala Ali. Green Book. What about you?
Should win Richard E. Grant. Will win. I don't know. I'm gonna lean towards Mahershala Ali because Green Book does seem to be doing really well at these other popular awards ceremonies. But I mean, the best supporting actor list here is not even an actor that I've thought about as the best supporting actor all year.
Yeah. Strong case. I like it. Best actress, we have Yalitza Aparicio, Glenn Close, Olivia Colman, Lady Gaga, Melissa McCarthy.
And our homegirl, Claire Foy, 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 Foy!
Foy, Foy, Foy! Ooh, I like that. I'm going to guess Glenn Close will win, should win, Olivia Colman, the favorite.
Should win, Claire Foy. Realistically, though, I would like to see Lady Gaga win this award. But I think that Olivia Colman will win it and absolutely deserves it. Yalitza being nominated is awesome. I'm very happy by that because she kicked some ass.
There you go. Best Actor. We have Christian Bale for Vice, Bradley Cooper, A Star Is Born, Willem Dafoe at Eternity's Gate, Rami Malek, Bohemian Rhapsody, and Viggo Mortensen, Green Book.
Foy.
All categories, Claire Foy.
Yes. You get me.
What do you think?
I mean, my boy Christian Bale, gonna win it, deserves to win it. I like these nominations quite a bit. It's tough for me to go against Mr. Robot, but yeah, I gotta go with Bale. Should win, will win. How about you?
I think Rami Malek will win. I think Christian Bale probably should win out of these 5.
And we both love Willem Dafoe quite a bit.
I know.
So
I'm glad he made it in there, though. Yeah.
Best Director. Spike Lee. Pavel Pawlikowski. It's hard to
It's a tough one. That's a mouthful.
Give me
Good luck to the presenter.
Give me a break, folks.
I hope they practiced.
Yes. Yorgos Lanthimos, Alfonso Cuarón, and Adam McKay. Who you got?
I think it is Cuarón's to lose. I personally would probably go with Spike Lee myself.
I agree that it's Cuarón's to lose. I don't see Spike Lee winning for this one. I think Lanthimos is a dark horse that I would not be surprised to win. And I really wonder if they're going to let Adam McKay make a movie and not give him the Best Director award. So I'm going to say Cuarón should win, McKay will win.
Ooh, interesting. All right. And Best Picture. We have Black Panther, Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favorite, Green Book, Roma, A Star Is Born, Vice.
If Beale Street Could Talk. That's my choice.
Done. What is that not doing here? It makes...
Why isn't the Hostiles film on
no
this
sense
at least?
To me. Yeah, I mean, it's just telling that, Black Panther is in here for Best Picture, and yet it's not even nominated for Best Original Screenplay.
Or Best Adapted Screenplay.
Nor Director. What is a movie?
It should be Adapted Screenplay, because it is adapted off of the comic book storylines.
What is a movie if it's not a screenplay made by a director?
And an editor.
So, it's interesting. I think it is Roma's to lose. And myself, of the bunch, boy, I really liked Black Klansman. I liked The Favorite. I did like Roma, and I liked A Star Is Born. I would probably go with The Favorite at this point. What about you?
I gotta go with Roma. Would win, should win. No problems if The Favorite wins. But just thinking, if Beale Street Could Talk, First Man, I know I didn't like it, but Widows.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We got...
Nothing on here for Widows.
We got Burning. Yeah. I would rather see Burning win than Black Panther, Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, Green Book, A Star Is Born, or Vice. And I liked half those movies. Didn't like Burning, but that's a fucking phenomenal film directorially.
I agree.
This is just the macaroni and cheese of awards.
It is. It does feel like a money contest to some extent. Private Life, I would have loved to have seen some love for Private Life.
Well, Nicole Holofcener had a screenplay nomination, correct?
Yeah. That's right. I thought Leave No Trace might get in there for screenplay.
Mm-hmm. Or Deborah Granick for Best Director.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Ben Foster, supporting actor, I would have rather seen in that role.
Yeah. But that's what we are working with.
Yep.
We didn't pick them.
Let's get into Capernaum.
Let's talk about a real movie.
Yeah. Foreign film.
Okay.
That we had the opportunity to see earlier this week.
Yes, we did.
شو بدك من أهلك؟
ما بقى بدي إياهم يخلفوا.
علي صوتك بس.
ما بقى بدي إياهم يخلفوا.
Capernaum, directed by Nadine Labaki, if I remember correctly. Lebanese film set in contemporary Lebanon. I responded to this one. I was a fan.
I thought it had awesome separate shots. The thing about it is, it's called Chaos, right? That's what it tells us in the beginning. It says that Capernaum or Capernaum, we're both probably not pronouncing it right. It's probably not. Like a silent C and overemphasized U or something. But it opens with giving us these great drone shots overhead, panning the city and the roads and the buildings. And that's awesome. But it doesn't really go on to mean anything to the story besides give weight to the setting. So at the end, I just didn't feel like all the great visuals that were alluded to necessarily made a cohesive statement, right? Like there's a lot of things. Like we go from the fair where he gets off the bus. There's the lights, and he's undressing the lady, and you and I are both laughing immensely as he exposes her bosoms.
He's a kid. Yeah,
and,
why not?
And there's lights on these rides, right? And then he goes back with the woman from Africa. I can't remember what country she's from.
I want to say Ethiopia?
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. He goes back with the Ethiopian who had moved to Lebanon and is there on a illegal visa, forged ID. And her son has these toys that light up, and that entertains him.
Little boy.
And that little boy is also constantly sucking on his mother's breast. And so there's a clear alliteration attempting to be happening between the exposed bosom that we just saw at the fair with the lights in the fair, the toys that light up and spin and make sounds, and the boy drinking his mother's milk from her breast. But it doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day. It's just great composition and juxtaposition of ideas that don't make a final statement.
Interesting. I had not thought of that alliteration. Interesting points. I think I did respond better to the camera work myself.
Yeah, there's some sharp stuff.
Yeah. To me, I think most of it appears to be handheld. It's kind of, the classic kind of shaky cam.
Stuff,
right, those establishing shots, yeah. But I think between that handheld camera work, mostly shooting on location, and those jump cuts, I think to me all kind of conjure a sense of realism that's sort of documentary-like.
Yeah.
That just brought some authenticity to it that I think I did respond to. These little actors, I mean, it's really the one particular actor we're following, I wish I could remember his name off the top of my head, was pretty mesmerizing for me. I thought he was a real sight to behold with how much screen time he has.
Great child actor.
Yeah.
No question. Yeah. Reminded me of Haley Joel Osment.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah. And I think that the point for me was just the process of his mounting frustration and the woman he meets, her kind of escalating sense of despair, I thought were emotionally striking. I think this was had more of an emotional pull for me than an aesthetic one, and sometimes that's enough. I think I wish she had the director had been a little more restrained with the music, because
trying to tell you what to feel.
Yeah, especially with how sort of realistic the shooting style felt. Some of that more dramatic music felt to kind of go against what she was conjuring visually, which is a little more gritty. I just don't think it was necessary, and it, it's just a little heavy-handed.
So narratively, did you like the setup?
The framing device?
Yes. The narrative, quote-unquote, conceit.
I don't. I get the sense that it did not bother me to the same extent that it.
Oh, it drove me
frustrated
insane.
you.
I'm just curious how you responded to it as a viewer.
Yeah, I was
to me,
not.
It was like that music, I guess.
It was the music.
It was like the music.
Gotcha.
Like it was just you're manipulating me.
Got it.
In a way where I was like, oh, you're manipulating me, not in the way that Karen Kusama in Destroyer was like, look over here, look over here, look over here. Illusions, Michael. Illusions.
Well, on one hand, yes, I think that it is clearly a device for the sake of dramatic intrigue. On the other hand, it at least lets me know that this isn't just an exercise in miserableism. Like, we are going to arrive at a place that is not just him living in abject poverty. I mean, he might he's still kind of there at the end, but we kind of know where we're going. Instead of just it would be a different sort of expectation if I didn't know that, and I was just wondering if he's just going to end up dead by the end of this.
So my comparison would be to a film in the same category, Shoplifters, where I didn't need to know that the boy was going to be arrested at the end. And relocated to a different home, that family would dissolve and the grandmother would die. I didn't need to know all that. I wanted the story to slowly show me. And I would rather have this story slowly show me its narrative. I would have appreciated it by at least another half a star more if it was just a straightforward narrative that wasn't constantly trying to get me to go, who's he going to stab? Who did he stab? Who'd he stab? Did he stab the guy down the street, or did he stab the guy in the shop center that sells the fake IDs? Who did he stab?
Yeah.
Who'd he stab?
Yeah. I guess, for me, I didn't feel it so much prodding me to wonder who he stabbed. The device was more for the sake of, how could a child possibly want to sue his parents for not having been born? And, the purpose of the film is therefore to show us just how frustrated and just baffled he is by the life he has been forced to live. And I think I was okay with the film, cueing me to just look for how consistently baffling this would be for a kid to have to deal with. I don't know. I don't know. I can picture that movie. It just feels like a different movie. I don't know that I can decide if it feels like it would be better or worse for me necessarily. Yeah.
I mean, just the statement of I'm going to sue my parents for having been born, it was never going to work for me. It's just
too much.
It's just a lazy conceit narratively. Like, I would rather have something more specific to the narrative itself. Like, I would like to sue my parents for not registering my birth. I would like to sue my parents for neglect. I would like to sue my parents for manslaughter against my sister.
It's broad, for sure.
Right? Like, I would like to see a 5-layered case where there's, like, a really legitimate case for each of these things.
Yeah.
And then the proof is how great... What's her name? Tigress? The Ethiopian
woman he meets?
Woman who he
right.
spends, I'd say, almost half the film in's house, or shack rather, and that would, like, because then it's a revelation of he was shown what a mother is or could be, and then contrast that with his own family life in a straightforward narrative, and then after doing the right thing, which is stabbing that guy that murdered his sister, and bought her when she was 11 years old, and I would say raped her because she's 11 years old, so I call that rape.
Oh, yeah, I would agree.
And he's an adult. So, it's definitely a loaded subject as a Lebanese film about child brides and just that part of the world, what the practices are and the customs and how patriarchal that society is in a religious way. So it's definitely tough to just talk about any part of it without devolving into the fact that, like, I just don't, like, it's just an icky policy to
it's a
rule
very
society.
Icky movie. Very icky.
With that religion to begin with.
Yeah. Very difficult to watch at times just because of how inhumane a lot lot of it is that you're
oh man, when he ties up
parents do
the
with their
little
kids.
boy's ankle. Oh,
it's tough. It's brutal.
That's brutal.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, for me, maybe it's just too easy of a gesture, but it might have just been, even more difficult to watch had I not known that he was at least going to arrive at a place where he was pushing back against what he thought was bearing down on him so hard. It gave me at least it gave me a little bit of a sense of hope, even if it is just a little bit of suspense in an otherwise an emotional movie. It told me that we were going to get somewhere. We didn't have to watch this kid just suffer.
To me, it's kind of it seemed very fictional, right? Like the whole film seemed very real, except for that opening where he's like, "I'm going to sue you for being born." That's like what a 4-year-old would say. Like it has no legitimate merit the way that it's presented as a legal case. Mm-hmm. So if it was something more legitimate, like and it came at the end and it was like, "I'm going to sue you for manslaughter, not documenting me, neglect, abuse," like all these things that they actually do, unregistered living environment, things that he can actually win on, then I would have been like, fuck yeah, kid, take this family down. They're shitty. Yeah. And because that's that would be a microcosm of what you want to see the individuals of that Lebanese society do to the Lebanese society. Because it's clear that it's a systemic issue of how they treat their people. Because of what his father says, like, "I'm an animal, you're lucky that you even exist," that stuff. And it just, it's hard to separate, like, what we want for these people in this part of the world, maybe from the art itself. And that's where I'm having a hard time with it.
Yeah, I would completely agree that it is probably just too broad. You're like, really? Lawyer? Like, this is really the case you're making? The lack of specificity is it does ask you to just go with it, and that might be it might be asking a little bit too much.
I think that I had to suspend disbelief maybe too much at that point, and then it was so realistic later that I couldn't marry the two ever in my head. That's just a personal problem maybe for me.
Yeah, I could see that, and I think I would agree that is probably a misstep, but it just overall it didn't detract that much from what the primary takeaway was for me, which is just how sort of maddening it is to see such irresponsibility. Just in the broad strokes, kind of in the broad takeaway, it didn't have that much of an impact, even though it was like, it's a little silly.
What about the irresponsibility of nominating this over Burning?
That is very irresponsible.
Right?
But, yeah, here we are.
But, like, this is a movie that is okay. I can't see why it necessarily deserves to be nominated in the same caliber of Roma, Shoplifters. I mean, Shoplifters I can see, but, like, dude, I don't like Burning, but Burning, like, what the fuck? How is Burning not achieving more than this film? I definitely wonder how they break down that region vote when I watch something like this, and I think this might be one of the only things coming out of the Middle East. And I wonder if they're just kind of going more by continent than country at this point, because we have Roma, then we have Poland for Cold War. I don't know where that Never Look Away is from. And then we have Japan for Shoplifters, right?
It's true.
And then we have Lebanon for this. And it's like, are they
just a token Middle Eastern entry?
Are we just trying to make sure that we cover the big ones so that it doesn't seem like we're skipping over someone instead of actually supporting the greatest versions of the art coming out of this community?
Yeah, that's where it can seem silly to me to have this discussion about Best Picture versus Best Foreign. It's like cinema is cinema everywhere, right? Yeah. It's like it's just don't...
It has to scale.
Yeah. And I think it's just probably the emotional appeal of it over sort of the aesthetic achievement of other movies. And I think that's probably what Shoplifters has going for it too. I mean, I did like Shoplifters, but it's also, reaches for your heartstrings.
Yeah,
no doubt.
There's a certain amount of romanticism that might be broadly appealing. So,
Yeah.
Child actors, who's your favorite in this film?
Oh, probably the lead guy, little Zane.
I really like Zane. I don't remember his sister's name, but I have to go with his sister. She broke my heart.
She did. She was great. A lot of great little child actors.
She was really special. That scene where she gets where Zane wakes up and he notices the blood in the bed. And then that whole ensuing thing where he takes care of his sister because he knows what's happening with her getting her period, and how he tries to shield her from the rest of the family knowing so that they won't sell her. That is one of those crucial scenes in this film that is so real and so heartbreaking in the society that when they tell me I'm going to sue you for being born, it's like a separate reality. And I don't know how to marry those two things together
really
as
specific
one
things he's dealing
alchemical
with.
film.
Yeah.
It just seemed too unrealistic to me to marry something so hyper real against something so unreal.
Yeah. The idea that he is forced to, grow up so fast and become so mature. He talks like an adult, and the adults talk to him like he's an adult. That actually took me a little while to kind of come around to. I'm like, is it almost just tough to accept that a little kid would be spoken to like he is? I think that's also kind of what this movie is doing, is kind of seeking to the director, I think, is trying to channel her own anger through this kid while also giving him a life of his own. And that's where some of that maturity, I think, comes into play and is kind of important for the sake of the movie.
I also love those get the fuck away from me lines in the alley.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was one thing I wasn't totally sure about. I want to say in the stretch of like 5 to 10 minutes when they're out selling those little cups of fruit on the street, there's, a stranger who comes up to his sister and starts kind of groping her, and she says, "Get away from me, creep." Then Zane goes for a delivery as one of his errands or part of his job, and the guy to whom he delivers something kind of starts pulling him into his apartment, and he says, "Get away from me, creep." And it's like, is everybody in Lebanon a pedophile? Like, is this being a little over exaggerated or something like that?
It's clearly not everyone, because he's surrounded by people, and it's like one individual at a time that's doing this stuff.
Yeah.
And there are definitely individual creeps in the society.
Yeah.
And this society specifically demeans women and protects men.
Yeah.
And is it just has a much higher rate of child abuse and rape than other countries, because there is no reliable infrastructure to report rapes, to get rape kit testing, any of that stuff. So I would say that it is an accurate, I would personally say that that's an accurate portrayal of what it would be like for unsupervised children that are going to get harassed.
Yeah, that's fair. Not easy to watch.
No, that's definitely what makes it hard. You're like, this isn't real. It can't be real. I don't like it, so it's not real.
Yeah. Favorite scene personally was probably him in the amusement park.
Unbreasting his.
Well, maybe not that
ride.
Specifically, although it was a nice.
That was definitely
humor.
The moment where I laughed in just the absurdism of the entire film around it, and the fact that it's the ride going around and around, and that it's like this one thing that he can latch on to. Right, the keyword there is latch on to, because he can't latch on to his own mother. In that metaphorical way that we mean about breastfeeding. Like, he can't get the nourishment of life from his mother. They can't have a conversation. She hits him. He's always doing something wrong. It definitely seemed like a fulcrum point to me.
Yeah. After so much just very obvious cruelty, not too obvious, but things like just the terrible treatment of kids, like, that's obviously
kicking
emotional.
And hitting them in the face.
Yeah, I mean, that obviously is going to provoke a reaction, but the idea of him just being in a place that's supposed to bring kids joy and just looking so kind of like vacant as
looking
he's
for
spinning
a job
around on
in
these
that
things.
Place.
Yeah. There's one shot of the big kind of pendulum ride swinging, and it looks like it's about to smack him, and it just looks like he's kind of numb to it. And that's just, it feels a little bit more based in the form itself, where him just walking around this park that's supposed to be sparking joy and leaves him empty.
Oh, going with your Marie Kondo quotes.
God, as soon as I said that, I was like,
joy.
As soon as you said that, I was like, please don't cite Marie Kondo. Walked into that one.
Does your sweater spark joy?
Nobody in this movie has followed the Marie Kondo Bible.
No one's following the KonMari method of does it spark joy?
Definitely not. But yeah, that's Capernaum.
That is
I think we're both...
I liked watching this movie. I'm really glad that I got to see it in a theater. It's just not in contention with what I think of when I think of the great foreign films. This is a director who almost, I would say, is like a young Nicole Holofcener or something. Where, like, I'm really excited by the style and the stories that she wants to tell. Or like a Deborah Granick, but I don't think that she's hit her narrative stride yet. I think she's definitely got a visual eye, really keen, but I want to see a better narrative story told. It's more cohesive and realistic.
Let's leave it at that. Moving on.
4 p.m. yesterday evening, Claire Kempley disappeared on her way home. Claire is 10 years old.
I'm a journalist. I'm doing this article about parents of children who have gone missing. Do you feel that the police could have done anything more to have helped you?
Yeah, there was one thing.
Right, what was that?
They could have found my daughter.
Yorkshire Ripper's name's in those files. Trust me, we've had him and let him go.
There's been another. You don't think she was killed by the Ripper?
If she wasn't, that would mean we've got ourselves 2 Jacks, not 1.
Who took her?
Everybody knows! Everybody!
You found out something.
The wolf made me.
I saw her. She said, we are in hell.
Red Riding.
The Red Riding Trilogy.
That's
in the
right.
year of our Lord, 1974, 1980, and 1983. For some reason, they avoided the 1970 book.
Oh, interesting. Yes, I think it's our first trilogy?
It is our first trilogy all in one go.
That's right.
We watched them in order, naturally.
We did.
We did see Capernaum after you'd watched the first one, and I insisted that maybe we stop because of your reaction to the first one, and you said, no, it's going to get better, I believe is exactly what you said, and I believe your ratings increasingly went down from that point.
I think I have a 2, a 2.5, and a 2.
Okay.
They're all kind of in there somewhere. Yeah.
So this was rough sledding for you, to say the least.
It was rough sledding. I mean, we can go film by film, I assume.
Yes,
yeah.
But I do think it will be hard to address some things without referencing what actually comes to pass.
Yes, this is true of everything, but it is literally impossible to talk about this without spoilers. So
yeah.
I think you will reference the second and third, even as you just discussed number 1.
If you're only 2 films in, watch that third one before you listen, because
Bail
we
now.
are going to cover from the king guy from Game of Thrones back to the Andrew Garfield and forward and back.
That's right. So starting with number 1, this was your favorite of the 3, correct?
Yes, by far my favorite of the 3. The compositional layering of the shots and the way that the camera was centered and used 2/3 rules and lights and smoke and noir. It just really... It has Rebecca Hall giving a great performance, Andrew Garfield giving a great performance. I'm riding high off Under the Silver Lake, where he plays a fairly similar character. So, yeah, it just teed me up and swung me out of the park. And I was immensely pleased by its offerings. One thing that I was thinking the whole time I was watching this, I don't know if you were, is like, wow, this is a great looking TV film.
I did not feel that way. So the disagreement begins.
Okay, so you think as a TV film it looks bad?
As a TV film or a film, or as prestige television, which is kind of what I would lump it in with. I just did not respond to the look of it.
Why did it look bad?
I thought it just looked too drab. Kind of a dirty brown and ashy gray color palette that, you could argue kind of is in keeping with the very grim mood, but I cannot say that there was a single shot here that I thought, wow, what a great shot. I think we just didn't...
Well, you were just listing colors. Are you saying that it's because the setting isn't pretty, you didn't like it?
I am saying that there were very few compositions and uses of color that struck me as aesthetically interesting. I thought it was shot in a very plain fashion. I thought True Detective looked better to me.
Well, I would definitely agree that those first 2 episodes of True Detective Season 3 looked great. But that is specifically because Jeremy Saulnier is a great director. I would argue. There's a scene, I think near the end of this first one, maybe, I know that it's multiple times in the second one, where they're entering the prison and the camera is like 4 doors back behind wire fencing. But it's zoomed up so that you think that it's only like 2 layers back. And a detective or Andrew Garfield in this case will walk through the door, and then it'll start zooming back, and that door will close. And then he has to open another door, or a guard from the other side opens another door and lets him in further. Then it zooms back further, and another guard opens a door and lets him in further. And then there's still another wire grate there. And I thought that visually really communicated what was happening to the people who are being framed in this prison. Is like, it doesn't matter what's true. They're so removed from society. These layers are so built up. Even though you see that you can see through them, they're so different. And then we see the torture tactics that happen behind these doors. And, it's... The other thing that I would say about this, just randomly, is this is very much true crime. Like, if you love true crime podcasts, if you're digging Sword and Scale or whatever, this series is right up your alley because it is a true crime series where you're always wondering who's the wolf, where are the pretty carpets, and how many people are going to die before this thing gets blown open. Yeah. And who did it. Yeah. And it's, not one that I feel like super confident saying is just a bad series by any means. I just don't think it's my kind of series. To me, it's just, I think each entry, suffered from this for me in that it's just too excessively plot focused. I feel like even with, film 1, it's within 5 minutes that we're hitting plot beats about who's who and what's happening, and I just felt like there was never much time for me to really connect with these people, for the atmosphere to really be built. So would you rather have it be longer?
I would,
like, would you rather have like an hour episode where you get to know like a person in the town?
I don't think I would want it to be longer. I think I would just want I would want a different story. I think that just the story itself.
Maybe if the film was called If Beale Street Could Talk, Burning, and...
That sounds nice. That sounds cool.
Something else.
I like those movies.
Oh, that's a trilogy I dig.
Yeah, Andrew Garfield I think is good. I think Rebecca Hall is good. I don't think it's her fault. I did not find her character particularly interesting. I didn't find the show particularly...
What about her breakdown?
Is her breakdown, is that when she's sitting in the bedroom?
She's standing there, and I think this is the second time they meet, and he's asking her like pointed questions about her daughter. And she starts having an emotional breakdown. And she's basically doing her full Rebecca ability, where she's trembling her lips, her eyes are crying, or it's just I don't know. Yeah, her as a performer is everything to me. She's what makes Joel Edgerton's The Gift a legitimately great film.
Yeah, I don't blame her, nor do I blame Andrew Garfield. I just wish that these characters had struck me as more interesting. I don't feel like the show was terribly interested in her grief as a mother. I think it has...
I think the novel was more interested about introducing her as a love interest and then killing her. But then to add more weight to her death, you know, as a writer, you want to attribute more value to her. So you make her the mother, and then you have the husband also kill himself. Then you have her also sleeping with Sean Bean, and then you have Sean Bean kill her, and Andrew Garfield still... I don't know. To me, that's just a great detective story.
Yeah, I mean, that is one thing that's frustrating about noir kind of in general. I think that's something that's probably always been a little problematic about noir, is just how it kind of handles its women characters. But I think it is, for me, it was just pretty repeated here that I don't think the women get a lot of interesting stuff to do.
I thought Helen was very interesting. And the second installment, Helen?
That's the coworker of the lead detective.
Who gets an abortion from her murderer.
Yeah,
or
but
is taken to her abortion appointment with her murderer.
Yeah, I wish they had just felt more like with fully lived in people than just characters with whom the dudes kind of relate. I mean, most of them, I think most of the women are either there and end up sleeping with one of the other detectives, or grieving in some way. But I don't know that the grief just really felt that empathetic to me. Yeah, I don't know that it even made much sense to me in the second one why, what's her name, Helen?
Mm-hmm.
Why she was brought on. That lead detective had a relationship with her. What was the point of him even inviting her on board when it would?
Well, I believe that the statement was that he wanted the best people you think for the job you can have. You can have two people. And I think that he chose the best two people. And I think that there is definitely a truth to when you work in an environment and you already would find someone sexually attractive and they're good at their job, that you're going to be attracted to them. Because if you're doing the same job and they are good at it, then you already find that, like, you already understand that role. So whatever they're doing is attractive innately because they're successful at it. Right? This is why we see people that go to college together and take the same classes end up pairing up in a coupling. Normally, they're people that are attracted to each other because they're talented at something, and that talent is sexually viable to us as people. Like we just innately find something like that attractive. And I didn't get the sense that it was anything negative. It was just like, these are the two people that he feels confident in as detectives. Yeah. And I think that both of them proved to be very talented detectives in the story itself. I would say that the novel innately gets reduced by having to be visualized, because you have to choose a main character that you have to gravitate around, and detective stories written by men are almost always going to navigate around men. Even J.K. Rowling, when she writes detective stories, uses a male character and then has a female kind of as the actionable Holmes, or rather Watson to Holmes.
Yeah.
In the Cuckoo's Calling and those sequels. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that makes sense that men would write a story about, more particularly focused on men, but it just doesn't mean that I'll necessarily like it that way.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to talk about like the practical truth of this, because it is a detective story that's celebrated in England. It's a quadrilogy, as far as I understand it.
Quadrilogy? What does that mean?
4. 1970, 1974, and 1980, 1983 are the books.
Oh, the books.
Yes.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah, well, I would maybe disagree that she was invaluable to the investigation. I don't know that she was written to actually contribute anything particularly valuable. She is, present in the rooms, and she's given the particularly, challenging year of the case. But I don't feel like she was ever momentous in, pushing the investigation forward. I can kind of accept him as a flawed protagonist who invites her on board because of her skill, despite knowing that there might be a problem when people find out that he had a relationship with her.
No, so one thing that I want to make sure that I communicate is I agree that the women are undercut in this narrative. I think it's on purpose, and I think it's to show how patriarchal the old England was, and how it's still quote unquote alive in the North, right? That's what we get in the third one, the continuous supercut of the cheers to the North, and it's these men that are controlling everything, that are basically terrible, abusive child rapists and child rapist enablers, pedophiliac enablers at the very least, and they're terrible people. But I feel like that is a narrative I feel like he's attempting to say something about the problems by this narrative rather than attempting to perpetuate the problems. Where I'm coming at it from.
Right, and I think it's a difference between intention and result. Well, I think that could be the intention, but if the idea is to expose the consequence of patriarchy, then I would probably want more time with for whom this is consequential, which might be the women.
Okay, then maybe you just want something that isn't the story.
Exactly, and that's why I say I don't know that this is bad. It just was one that I just couldn't find my way into.
To me, I come back to that thing that they say in 4th grade when they're trying to teach you reading comprehension, read between the lines, right? Mm-hmm. To me, the reading between the lines is, right, Rebecca Hall is amazing. Everything bad happens to her. She's a really strong female character, and then she's killed off. Helen, really strong female character, written out. Why does our in the second part of the trilogy, why does he get killed in the end? I'm pretty sure because of what she says to keep him on the case. With her difficult year. She finds out this important detail that he goes to address and then is eventually murdered because of pursuing that lead that she had attained, based on my understanding. And then the Catholic priest, right? He's in that house with that woman who is emotionally inert, essentially, who lost her daughter. Then we have Sean Bean's wife, who is continuing the thing. All of these women, to me, were victims of really brutal, heinous shit constantly. And then in the third film, it continues, and we see how it's these men kidnapping these little girls and little boys and doing sexual acts on them underground, and that it's basically the story of women and one boy who just happened to survive that are keeping this case going. And it just so happens that this guy was in the right place at the right time to successfully end this case. But Maurice, or Morris, I think they pronounce it Morris, but it's spelled Maurice because it's English, so whatever. Right, the only reason he keeps going on the case is because of what's the word? Clairvoyant or something? Right?
Yeah.
I feel like the women are immense to this case, and if you read between the lines, it's that they're constantly getting abused and underwritten and mistreated, but they are the only reason why the case is ever going to get solved, because they're the real meat and bones of the structure of society.
Yeah. I think I can understand that reading. I would just rather have, if the women are that consequential, I would rather not have to read between the lines. I think I would rather them be given more interesting things to do and read between the lines in terms of what it is their emotional experience is. Here, I didn't even have enough time to really understand them as people because of them either crying, sleeping with the dudes, or dying. I think I see your point that the point here is the agony brought on the women by men. I just didn't find this to be the way in which I would best like that idea expressed.
Kind of like my problem with Capernaum. Capernaum.
Yeah, for sure. I think I did like 2 the best. The second one of the 3.
I thought it was really narratively strong.
Yeah. For me, that's maybe where the cinematography brightened up a little bit, and I thought it was a little clearer, and I just was enjoying the look of it a little bit better.
What did you think about maybe it's hard to say visual communication, but it is largely visual because it's not the plot specifically telling you how we come to see that Morris is actually not on our side. Right?
Which guy is Maurice again? Or Morris? Sorry.
David Morrissey's character. The fellow with the glasses.
Oh, gotcha.
Right? Because he's introduced as the first detective who's chosen by our main character in the second film. And then proceeds to basically... I remember the first time we encountered him was 10 minutes later in the movie, maybe. Mm-hmm. And I forgot if that was the guy that was supposed to be on our team or not. And I just thought that the way that that it visually let us go, like, oh, this guy's not on our team. Because I felt like I was always on the team with our main character. I don't know if that at least was true for you, but I think that that's definitely something that this film, or that these 3 films always did, is every time we're with one of these main characters, I feel like I'm always on their team and rooting for them because they truly want what's best.
Yeah, well, I think I felt that way kind of up until a point with each protagonist, at which point some sort of maybe flaw or some kind of more anti-hero like quality is revealed, and that kind of complicates your feeling, I think, in a good way. Right, like with I wish I could remember names better. I think it's Patty Considine who plays the lead detective in number 2.
Okay.
You know, I think I was very much aligned with him and on his side up until the point at which I started to question his judgment, right?
Yeah, well, I think that that's just good narrative, right? When we
I don't mean that in a bad way.
When we have a detective who has like a good moral compass and is on a case for good thing, and then has legitimate flaws, like our Bosch detectives, or you know, I feel like any great detective, especially the series True Detective, is hinged on the fact that detectives are real people. They are flawed. But that doesn't mean that their flaws mean that the person who committed the crime is by any means not guilty of crime. I feel like that's where detective narratives really live and die.
Yeah, I didn't mean to imply that I think that's a bad thing. I think I usually felt I was on their side, on their team, up until a point at which I second guessed it a little bit.
Okay.
You know, I questioned Andrew Garfield's drive for vengeance with his ability to just think clearly. And I questioned the detective in the second film's judgment after seeing that he brought this woman on board.
I'm going to call my shot right now. Michael's going to give Under the Silver Lake a 2 out of 5.
Ooh, interesting.
I'm calling it.
Because is he a flawed protagonist?
He's a flawed protagonist who's a womanizer.
Yeah, I mean, we shall see. Yeah. TBD.
So, one small digression is, you love film noir.
I do.
How did the first film not feel like film noir to you? With all the smoke and the light.
I did.
And the flawed protagonist. And the blonde damsel in distress. Like, how was that not noir? The legitimate question.
Totally fair. It is very much in the noir genre, 100%. I think to me, it just looks bad. I just don't think it looks good. I think this is not disagree. 40s black and white, which I do very much like, but there is plenty of neo-noir that I think is largely on television that is very plot-driven and less about atmosphere. It lacks the hard-boiled lyrical dialogue.
Agreed.
And is much is just excessively gloomy. I don't know. I mean, it's a fair point. It's probably just kind of a distance with historical noir that helps a little bit.
Were you thinking when you were watching that this is a decade old?
When I watched this one, I don't know if I realized when it came out, to be honest, when I watched it. Yeah, I don't feel like this ever, to me, just lacked the poeticism that I feel like I really connect with in some of my favorite noir.
Do you have a favorite scene in the whole trilogy?
That's a good question. You go first while I think about it.
Oof, okay. Well, my favorite scene would probably have to be Rebecca Hall's scene, but if I'm not going to go with the Rebecca Hall scene, I would have to say the first introduction of the For Love little girl with swan wings on her, the way that we get that pan overhead shot, and we're not really certain of what it is. It's kind of murky, and then I believe it zooms in or it they focus in. If they're not zooming in for focus, they just adjust the focus, and we see this little girl who has swan wings sewed into her back, and it's just fucking disgusting. And that really sets the tone, I think, for the whole series.
Yeah. impossible for me to argue with. I think this is taste coming into play. I mean, that eventually becomes a part of the critical process.
I love detective stories. Lots of bias here. It's not going to be a 4.5 for most people.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a 3.5.
Just for
unless
people
you
in
love
general.
detective in true crime, then it's 4.5, 5, because there is a specific crime story about the middle of America that basically mirrors what happens in this trilogy as far as a pedophilic ring from people in power manipulating and abusing children through legal systems and then getting fake people to cover it up.
Yeah, maybe the difference between a noir like this and some of the classic noir I do like does just have to do with how these don't, I don't know, at least with regard to how like the how the women are treated, that I didn't like quite as much or didn't respond to as much, is that these don't feel like femme fatales to me.
Rebecca Hall did to me, I have to say.
Really? I don't know. She didn't. I mean, I am by no means any expert on the depiction of women in 40s noir, but I do feel like they usually retain their agency to some degree and are they feel more like vibrant people to me.
There was definitely narrative through lines that this had to serve more than just being a work of art. Like, I think that if any film's job was to just be a work of art, we would have seen something a lot different. Everything is about making this end point, and I do think that the end point was not as eloquently depicted as it could have been. They did not adapt the books enough. They did not take enough liberty at the end to make it truly impactful.
Yeah. I mean, I think I did kind of like the narrative direction of the third in principle, whereas I kind of think of the first two as two outsiders coming to the case from that outside perspective, attempting to not only reveal the truth as to who's behind the killings, but also expose the corruption that they come to find. And then the third one being Maurice being on the inside, starting to actually have guilt. We start to get this process from the inside out of this coming
and
undone.
Then, what's his name from Game of Thrones who played the king?
Sean Bean.
No. The king. He's king of the North, right? And then the more chubby fellow who's the solicitor.
Oh, he's from Game of Thrones too?
Yeah, he is the legitimate king of... he was Cersei's first wife or whatever, or first husband. I don't even remember what that shit's called. I want to say Waterdeep because I'm so deep into Arya Salvatore shit, but it's not Waterdeep. Anyways, he is the son of someone who was perpetuating the crimes of pedophilia in that underground labyrinth, and he's the one that descends into the labyrinth, brings her back and saves her and carries her out of the darkness. And that is great, but that's great writing. The way that it all coalesced wasn't great visual storytelling.
I would agree.
Would be my complaint with the third one, and I did like it. I still haven't logged it, so I don't really know where I'm at. I think it's a 3.5, whereas the first two were 4.5s for me. Like, they were just so ballsy and just flying by the seat of their pants. You just didn't know if Andrew Garfield was going to live or die. Kind of at that end, like, you didn't know what he was going to do, if he was going to go on a killing rampage or run away and reevaluate and be an informer in the next one. Like, I just didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I liked that. And I liked in the second one that I didn't know who was on my team, and I didn't know what the teams were, and I didn't know how deep the rot went, to quote the film itself or the book itself. And I thought that there's great narrative storytelling happening in these films. It is probably best served as the quadrilogy that it was written in, though.
Yeah. I wish I responded in the same way. I don't know that I see why it transcends the detective stories that we've seen elsewhere, like a True Detective or Bosch. It feels fine to me, but it just doesn't feel different enough from a lot of those guys.
Yeah, I think that it is missing a certain layer to the... Like, it's almost like they should have shown us a girl getting apprehended, raped, and murdered, but I don't want to call for that. But, like, that is maybe what Von Trier would have done that really would have made it impactful that BBC was not willing to do.
It's very funny you say that. I almost said that myself, and I just couldn't quite articulate like why I think that might have helped me. But because I think you're completely right.
That would visualize the truth of what's happening, right? Because when we see stuff on the news that says like 7-year-old girl was raped and murdered, like, right, we can take those 2 words and we can try to ignore them. They'll be in our subconscious somewhere naturally. But if you were to be strapped down like Alex in A Clockwork Orange and shown a little girl getting raped and murdered and who that person was that did that, you would very likely have to do something about it as soon as you were unstrapped. And there's probably a 50-50 chance that you commit a homicide.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that that's what the truth is about visuals, is maybe we weren't being shown the visual truth enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also, I don't know how you could negotiate that. It would be Von Trier, it's up to Von Trier, because he's the only person I've seen get away with murdering kids brutally on screen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and with those lack of visuals, I think if the dialogue had maybe been a bit more lyrical for me, that might have made up for it.
Yeah. That's maybe adapted screenplay issue.
Yeah.
Because you can't take novel dialogue and insert it into a film.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, some of the best noir for me is ones I can quote because of how sort of distinctive a line might be. I don't know that I could, pull something out here. But
I'm definitely more visual with my noir.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
Well, that is the Red Riding Trilogy.
You want to get back on the court. And as your agent, I want to get you there. But we are in a lockout.
There are no actual games to watch.
You think these fools, these rich white dudes, gonna let these sexiest sport fall by the wayside?
This team's my family. I need us to be one big family again.
Football is fun, but it don't sell sneakers. To move merch and inspire rap lyrics, they need your services.
High Flying Bird, Netflix release, Soderbergh, my second favorite film of the year so far. 4.5 and a heart from me.
Behind what?
Climax.
I think I did know that. That makes sense. By a wide gap?
By a 0.5 star and a heart.
Got it. Okay.
But I haven't finished rewatching it.
High Flying Bird, that is.
Yes, or Climax. So on second viewing, it's swappable.
By year end, who knows? Those things can move.
Yep. I expect
DVD.
both to be near the top 10.
Yeah.
So this was my favorite, most anticipated film of the year.
They got to stand firm.
They
got to hold their ground.
Oh, they will. It's no worries.
It's important to revisit. Just keep them fresh in your mind. Don't forget them.
What did you think? You didn't rate this. You logged it with a heart, I noted. You watched it in 4K. You tagged it with the word Steven Soderbergh.
Heck yeah.
And
I love my tag.
That's all I remember that you tagged it with. I think there was a third tag. Don't remember what it was.
Yeah. Definitely positive on it. I just couldn't quite pick a rating because there were competing things going on in my head. Why not just start with the iPhone cinematography? I just did not care for it.
Oh my god, it's so pretty. I love that I can see the skyscraper in the restaurant when they're eating in the beginning. I love that I can see the skyscraper in the back in perfect focus. That is so dope. It's like real. It's like watching a real film. I love that shit.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's unpleasant.
It was
and
so
I'm not...
pretty. You didn't think it was
wish
pretty?
I felt that way.
Oh man, if Unsane is ugly on purpose, High Flying Bird is pretty on purpose.
Yeah, I wish I was in that camp. I just kept thinking to myself, I don't think this is particularly pleasant on the eye. And the creative angles, I think, were just too showy. I wish he had pulled it back a little bit. I think the focus here, to me, is the wordplay. That's what I really responded to, and just kind of how there's an electricity between these performers. I think this is really whip-smart dialogue. I wish I had responded to the look of it more than I did.
Oh man, when he's in the beginning, right, when he's been turned down for his credit card, and then they exit the restaurant and he's walking down the street. Mm-hmm. Some of those faraway shots of just watching him walk along, and then it like slowly pans and then ends up behind him and follows him as he proceeds up the sidewalk. Those are just some majorly complex shots that I just dig.
Compositionally, yes. I think what he maybe puts in the frame is okay. It's just the iPhone itself.
What about the color? That was your main complaint about Unsane? That was your main complaint just now about the Red Riding Trilogy? How do you feel about the color in this?
Mixed.
Mixed?
At best. I wish I liked it more because of how much I like what's kind of going on in this movie. And I think that kind of transcends some of these other things for me in the end. That's why the rating will probably be pretty high, to be honest. I should just say, I'm ranging more between, a 4 and a 4.5.
Okay.
But,
So you're
I think,
reasonable.
Yeah. But I just don't think this could ever possibly be a 5 for me.
I don't ever see giving it the 96. Just because what you're saying, with the dialogue being so snappy and great, I don't know that it's ever edited to truly achieve its greatness narratively. I would say Moneyball also has this problem, where while dialogue driven and great, it never capitalizes on it the way that maybe Any Given Sunday does from Oliver Stone, which just achieves this dialogue back and forth between Cameron Diaz and Al Pacino that while it doesn't permeate the movie, it is often enough that it just swells and overwhelms the movie.
Yeah. I mean, I think I want people to use iPhones if that's what they only have access to. I don't think that should stop anybody from making a movie.
Well, think about the fact that by using an iPhone, he has how much more money in his budget to get Kyle MacLachlan.
Yeah, it's true. It's just a matter of, I think, what any given person values in their movie going, and how much of it is, the money spent on an actor versus just the light and form, and whether that's what you look for.
So I know it's a stupid question, but I'm just going to clarify. You watched the whole movie, one sitting in the dark on a TV.
That's correct.
Okay.
Did you not?
Nope. I watched the full film in my bathtub. On my
Careful
phone,
what you say.
naked in my bathtub, like a normal person in the bath, because it came out at midnight. I turned that shit on. I already had the bath drawn. Boom, 12:01. I'm in the bathtub. I'm watching High Flying Bird. I make it 1 hour in. Water's getting a little bit cold on my toesies.
Right.
So I bail out. It's 1:01 a.m. Boot that shit up on my Wii U. Watch it on the tablet on my Wii U. It's great. Boom. Put it on my Xbox earlier. Watch the first third on my Xbox. Looks even better and bigger. It translates digitally so well. It is. I think that there has to be a new thing that we consider about this digital format, where it's how does it scale? Do these movies scale? And do we find value in that? Should we find value in that? And I think that I do, and I think that I did.
Yeah.
Find value in the way that it scales.
Yeah, I think the question is, rather than should we value it, I think it's maybe to any given person, do you value it?
Yes.
To me, I do not.
Well, that's the thing. So if we are going to criticize film, and we're going to say that criticizing film is a quote-unquote service to the culture, do you have to take into account how the culture views stuff as well? So even though you're not viewing it that way, what about 60% of the kids that are going to watch this on their iPad tablet or Android tablet or iPhone or Android phone?
I think, in my opinion, I think they should be the ones to offer that perspective. I don't know that I want anyone to talk about any perspective other than their own.
You are the critic talking on the microphone right now.
I think everybody's a critic.
I agree. I think that's a valid thing. But when we're talking, I think we also have to think, how are people interpreting this art? Are people watching Roma in the theater? Or when we're talking about Roma, or are they watching it in a home theater setting?
Yeah, but I personally just don't feel comfortable trying to pretend how I think other people might react to it. All I feel comfortable talking about is how
you did.
I do. Yeah. I wouldn't. I fear critics trying to speak for other people. I think what marks a truly great film is when everyone speaks for themselves and everyone seems to say, yes, this is a great film, that's the mark of a great movie.
Agreed. But how else do we recommend films if we're not thinking about other people as well?
You speak for yourself, and you identify trends and whose taste I think you align with, and who speaks about it poetically.
I do think that there is a percentage of the process, though, where we do have to consider how other people are going to be incorporating a picture into their lives, right? Like when we went and saw First Man in IMAX, we damn well knew that the majority of people are not going to see First Man in IMAX, that are going to see First Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, you do have to scale how you talk about it, and I do think that this just merits that conversation again and being brought up again, because it is one of those things that scales. It just scales the way that I thought that Valhalla Rising scaled as a digital production. Yeah.
Well, if I rewatch, I was about to say maybe we'll do it on the phone, but I just don't want it. I would rather see it on the big screen.
You almost had me. For you. I'll get you.
Can we list the description of this episode as we talk about movies and Taylor takes a bath?
That'll be the title.
Yes. But
so let's diverge.
Yeah.
Divulge.
Word.
What do you think about the allegorical conversation that he's having between globalism and specifically the Globetrotters and the NBA, and how Netflix is taking the place of the Globetrotters and traditional cinema is taking the place of the NBA? What do you think about that allegorical conversation that Soderbergh's having?
Yeah, I think he is making a point that I don't know is a revelatory point about the opportunity for platforms like Netflix or Hulu or Facebook to democratize how we consume certain things. I just don't know, as a film, if it makes for that revelatory of an experience. I think he's making a valid point, but I don't know that it was one that I was particularly interested in or found dramatically interesting. But I think...
Did you find it contemporary, at least?
Yes, but I am starting to wonder if Soderbergh is more interested in fads rather than trends. He's very in the moment, but I'm also worried that he's maybe losing sight of what's universal and rather in favor of what's just today.
Interesting. I think that he takes what's universal and then maybe addresses it through a fad. Because I think that just because I'm making the statement of Netflix versus classic cinema formats, that doesn't mean that in 10 years we won't be talking about like how, the home system video game consoles are the old way to properly play a video game, and these new fandangled handheld consoles that are offering the same exact hardware specifications are the new way, and you shouldn't be playing a video game on a 10-inch screen. You should be playing a video game on a 48-inch projector. Like, I do think that this is something that scales over time as universal quote-unquote truths change. And I think that what's interesting is, I would turn it back to another Netflix title, Roma, and I would say, okay, Roma, great piece of cinema, right? It's a Netflix title, and everyone that's ever seen it that is in the know, I guess, or what I would call in the know, recommends seeing it in a cinema. And it hasn't come out of our landmark, the Crest, since it premiered 3 months ago. Yeah. It's been offered there every single week, continuously, on repeat, and is still selling tickets solidly. Yeah. So, does that... I find it and the film are like, just because they're going out and doing this great solo thing, right? Like in the film, it's this great one-on-one match or these 3-on-3 matches that are happening in Vegas.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But then at the end, they're just going back to the same thing that everybody loves, right? Roma is this great thing that was a streaming title.
Yeah.
But we all want to watch it in a cinema because that's the best way to do it. So to me, it's an interesting statement that has multiple layers as a film, and that I think will scale as fads and trends come in with time. Like, I think that it's something that can be interpreted differently in 2040 than it is now, when we have like augmented reality glasses on instead of normal glasses and stuff like that.
Yeah. I guess I just haven't quite decided yet what the statement necessarily is. If it's the idea that, you know, this story is kind of evidence of, you know, in this case, athletes being able to take power back from the players' associations and, you know, the owners to themselves in favor of a love of the game and being able to monetize it themselves.
I personally don't think that's what it is.
Then you go ahead.
Well, if you want to continue, that's fine. I just wanted to say, like, on reflection, now that I've had so much time with it, because I've had at least 2.5 weeks with it. I think that it's more about Andre Holland as Steven Soderbergh than it is about the players, because he essentially uses the players to leverage the system, to keep the system giving as much as they're reasonably going to give away to the players, still to the players, right? That's just like normal capitalism, empiricism. It's always going to happen when people make you money. You're always going to have to give a little bit more than you want to give. That's negotiations or compromise or whatever. But the real thing is how Andre Holland skips floors, to me. And that's kind of Steven Soderbergh. Like, he's ascending this floor, and he's going past his producer. And he's going up a floor and getting more scalability over the projects that he wants to be able to influence. So you don't see the film as an endorsement of the platforms through which Andre Holland is threatening to kind of take power from the players' association. Because to me, those are just leveraging tools from what's proven to be scalable over time to create a profit for these kids. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, the best thing for these kids is that profit. Because we do see how important it is to those communities at certain points in the film, when there's, like, the one-on-one pickup match at that spot. Like, to me, that's the truth of it.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, this point comes pretty clearly that what's most important to these, you know, real basketball players as they're being interviewed in those black and white shots is that what's most important to them is sort of a love for the game, and that we can take this back for ourselves at any point, and that, you know, white dudes in power need to check yourselves because we have these other options. And I think anyone who, you know, doesn't think that Netflix is commoditizing, you know, the love for art in the same way that an NBA association commoditizes a love for basketball. I mean, I don't know that I really see the distinction.
I would agree with that. That's a great point. I think that there's to me, there's just another thing that I'm having happen where it's like, while all of that is true, if money matters, and I would have to say that in order to have this conversation, we have to agree that at the end of the day, money matters. That's how the film opens with the restaurant, I believe, when he hands them the credit card and they say, sorry, this doesn't work. And that's basically telling us, like, okay, food is being taken out of their mouths. Now you're losing something too. You know, he takes his own money to pay for the meal. And to me, that kind of is the fulcrum of the statement. Like, he's taking his money to pay for these kids who have these dreams, right? And I would say that his main character is kind of like those interview shots that we get. Like, he's just in it for the love. But he has to have the money to do it, which we also see because the issue in that scene is the loan that he took because he was being manipulated. So at the end of the day, you have to have more money. And he's truly the only person that knows how the system is rigged. And to me, that's kind of Steven Soderbergh. Like, he knows how the system's rigged, and he wants to be a facilitator for these kids who just want to play, to make sure that they're okay and that they can play. And he wants to take care of it for them. But no matter what, he's always going to be stuck inside of a structure that he has to facilitate by using whatever leverage he has at his ability. And to me, it's about trying to become kind of a stylist at leveraging things so that you can let these players play the game that they think that they just want to play for love, but that's not really the truth of it. But you don't want them to know the truth of it, because then they'll stop doing it for the love of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think those are all fascinating points, and most definitely the kind of thing I responded to. I don't know that the aesthetic choices really help illuminate those themes. I don't think the iPhone does it. I don't know that in 90 minutes at dialogue of this pace is really helping to serve the thematic interests here. It's just kind of maybe that what's holding me back is just kind of that issue of form and content meeting each other. While I'm really kind of interested in those ideas, I wish it had just been a little clearer to me. And maybe that's just that I watched it 12 hours ago, and that'll just happen, as I think about it. But I felt that it just could have been illuminated a little bit more clearly.
What's your favorite actor other than Andre Holland?
Ooh, good question. I do think Kyle MacLachlan makes for a pretty shitty dude. He had some stiff competition from Zachary Quinto. That's very true. Very true. What about you?
I think I gotta go with Beats.
Nice.
I liked what Zazie was throwing down from that first intro and into the limo, where you're like, she's playing the game.
Yeah.
Right? Because she's Andre Holland's assistant, no longer. Doesn't tell the girl who's running the commission that she's no longer the assistant, then gives information to the commissioner. So she's like getting them to go against each other while she's got her own separate game going on.
Just dribbling circles around him.
And then she starts sleeping with this player.
She's good. I was a fan. I think the whole cast is definitely what I responded to, and I think everyone works well together. It's just kind of that spark between people as they're having
the kids dialogue. Coach. I don't remember his name, but the kids coach. Oh, man.
Yeah. The kind of guy who I feel like I've seen in a dozen movies or shows, but I couldn't tell you his name. You just know his face when you see it.
Yep. You're just like, voice. Oh, him. Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's got a strong screen presence. It's great stuff.
I love this movie. You at least liked it, which is good news to me, because you did not respond as well to Unsane.
I like this a lot better than Unsane. Definitely, yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's kind of our episode this week.
That's right.
Little bit of divergence from cohesiveness, but hey,
good variety.
What are we giving the folks next week?
Next week we will be discussing Happy Death Day to You, Greta with Isabelle Huppert and Chloe Grace Moretz, who has been in the news lately.
Yep.
And Fighting with My Family, starring
Florence Pugh.
Run! Go! Get to the chopper!
We have to go.
I'm coming with you.
That was brilliant.